Everyone, welcome to Pro Church Media's Christmas Convo live with some pretty special guests today. We're really excited to have people from all over the US, from California, Milwaukee, and Indianapolis, so kind of spread across the whole country really, in different time zones, different weather, I'm sure. And I'm over here in the UK as well, so it's very cold here too and very dark. So we're joined by Michael, Jon, and Aaron, and I'm going to go ahead and let those guys introduce themselves, what they do, where they are based, and kind of some of the things that what their main role is in their life. So Michael, we're going to start with you. We'll head to Jon next, and then Aaron last.
Yeah, thanks, Ruben. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. My name is Michael. My Instagram name, Michael Khamo Design. I'm a full-time freelance graphic designer, and I've been full-time freelancing since April this year, but I've been working in the church for maybe about five and a half years now, and I love it. And I'm from San Diego, California.
Nice. Jon?
Yeah, I'm Jon Carlson. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I work with Church Media Squad. I'm one of the squad leads. I'm essentially a creative director here at Church Media Squad. Been involved with Church Media Squad for 4 years now, a little over 4 years. And previously was at staff on churches, a couple of different churches, probably for the last 9 years before, or probably about 6 or 7 years, prior to Church Media Squad. So,
my name is Aaron Williams. I'm the creative director at Connection Point Christian Church. We're in just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been here I think it's 3.5 years now, but this is, I think, my 12th, maybe 13th year of ministry, working in churches and creative the whole time. And I mean, I've kind of transitioned from that doing the creative work to leading the creative teams. So, I mean, I do a little bit of film or design work here and there, but most of my job is being the herder of cats and making sure that we get stuff done, but my creatives aren't burnt out in the process.
That's why I'm so excited to have you three here today. A little bit about me as well is that my name is Ruben. I'm based in the UK. I'm married to an American who isn't in California, but is from California. Her name is Megan. She's wonderful. She's part of the Pro Church Media team like me, and I am a freelance designer too. So kind of like Michael, working with churches and just kind of helping them improve their media, helping people connect to God through digital space. I think Michael's kind of motto or slogan is called changing the world one pixel at a time or something like that. So similar to that. And the reason why I'm excited to have these three guys with us today is because there's a different take and a different experience that each one of these brings. So for Michael as a freelancer, he's coming from working with churches as a client relationship. We've got Jon here who's working as an agency, partnering with churches and helping run a team that work in the media space. And then we've got Aaron, who is boots on the ground, part of a church, a local church, helping to raise up a team and lead a team in a local church. So there's some really cool perspectives here that I'm excited to kind of hear more about and hear from. I guess we're going to kick things off and just hear about what you guys are seeing right now, Christmas 2021 in the church. And maybe we'll start with you, Aaron, since you were last in the last question. Kind of how is it in 2021? We're kind of coming out of COVID, and what are you experiencing and seeing right now?
I mean, at least for our church, we've been pretty blessed. We didn't have any of the major giving dips that a lot of the other churches experienced. We're up to maybe 70-75% attendance on the weekends. We've had some of our biggest weekends kind of ever over the last 2 months, which has been, a huge blessing. Our senior pastor has led us through this really well. We had really saw whatever. The history doesn't matter. This year, I mean, I feel like post-COVID, there's actually more to do, even though, generally speaking, attendance isn't back at full because you have that amazing in-person experience. And then a lot of churches have that online experience that they're also trying to, create, whether that's something completely different or it's a live stream of your current service. But there's just so many more moving pieces and multiple audiences. So I know that there's way more moving parts this year than any other year that I've had. But it's been a blast.
Yeah. And have you noticed, you say that you're back to 75% attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Christmas is such an integral time for outreach. Mm-hmm. how is your church kind of balancing that? Is it mainly online? Is it in person? Like, what's your kind of your strategy you guys are employing?
Yeah, I should add the disclaimer. We're at 75% physical attendance. If you add in our average digital attendance, we're actually up over we were, not by like a multiplier, but just straight number of viewers online. So that's been really cool. We are probably within the last maybe 3 months, we've really got our physical experience back to like, full bore, everything kind of the way that it was. Everything's reopened, even with all the safety protocols. But our online experience, we've just kind of like kept everything that we did for COVID. We've kind of kept it going, and then just kind of brought our physical experience kind of back up to where it was. So we kind of have that like 50-50 importance between the two. I know some churches, one or the other is more important depending on the restrictions or the culture or whatever. We're pretty solid 50-50. We've got a really big digital initiative that we've been able to keep going strong.
Cool, that's amazing. I'm really glad to hear that the people are coming into the church building as well, and you guys are making an impact in that space. So that's really cool. Jon, for you, working with churches in the digital space, obviously a lot of these churches you're only interacting with online. Now that things are getting back into person, have you seen a shift in kind of how you're working, or even just like some of the churches you're working with? What kind of is the main thing you guys are working on now?
Yeah, we see a lot more people or churches. There's a lot more assets that we're building out compared to what we kind of were, say, in 2019. Because before 2019 was kind of just the regular of whatever they normally did. And now this past, last year and now this year is kind of that blend of, okay, well, now we're not just physically here together in, for a Christmas service. It's, like Aaron was saying, like we got people online and they're only staying online, which is, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. But also, that really actually opens up the door. Like Aaron was saying, we have, 50% here and then 50% here, but also that 50% might be, different people in the area that you weren't connecting with before, which honestly, I'm like, man, it's such a cool time that we can hopefully expand a lot more. The gospel isn't always, or it's not all out there right now, so we see, a lot more assets of, lower thirds, more online, more physical things. We're seeing, churches kind of like having, two different screens for like a small group. A small group is going to be online. You're going to have a small group, that's going to be physically in the building or in a home or something like that. And then, this year we have more printed things as well that we're going through, which is awesome. But also at the same time, it's not, because it's a lot more printing and, a lot more work on our end, woohoo for us. So, but it's great to see those people, doing these things again, kind of getting back to normal, being together with people. Because this is great. Talking with someone from the UK, this is awesome. But at the same time, I want to see my friends. I want to be physically with them, whether we touch or not, whatever. I'm a touchy-feely kind of guy. Like, I'll give somebody a hug. Like, come give me a hug, So
Cool.
I'll say that's one thing that I've seen this year that I haven't before, is how much sooner you have to have things done because of like paper shortages and shipping time. So like we've had to plan way more ahead than any other past year. Just talking about kind of like, what is it like in this specific season?
Yeah. And that's really interesting because Michael, kind of coming over to you, you've switched from working for a church to be an independent freelancer during COVID. So this is going to be, I guess, your first Christmas working as a freelancer, right?
Yep.
Kind of
Yes.
solely as a freelancer. You were doing freelance projects before. So how does where is your mind right now in terms of shifting from working for a church now to working with multiple churches, but kind of in a working from home setting without being kind of boots on the ground? How does that feel?
It's definitely a new experience. Because before I was just focused on one thing, and yes, I would have side projects here and there. But now, like you said, I'm working with a lot of different churches, right? Not just one church. It's everybody's different. It's not just one thing. So I have to be able to shift my mind and, okay, now I'm doing this, and now I'm doing this, and now I'm doing this. So it's learning how to shift that way has been like a challenge for me. But at the same time, it's been super rewarding. Working from home has been definitely a challenge also, being a dad and a husband, and there's times where my son doesn't go to daycare and he's here. It's definitely been a challenge, trying to balance my work and being a dad and serving my family as much as I could. So it's definitely been a new challenge for me this year, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world at this point because I'm just enjoying what I'm doing.
And just a quick side note, just in case anyone's kind of thinking, what is that mist in the corner? Michael is sick right now. He actually has COVID, and he has got he has been an absolute trooper and just come on here even though he's sick. And I think just if just to appreciate Michael in the chat as well, just he's looking well for a guy with COVID. He's doing really well at this. So appreciate it, man, and praying that you feel better soon.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate that.
So you just touched on the challenges of being a creative at Christmas, and I think this is where we want to dive into, start to have a deeper conversation about challenges of creative at Christmas, of the workload, work-life balance. Obviously, there's a lot for people on the ground at a church. They're spending a lot of evenings out. A lot of their day is spent working on projects, and then they're doing a lot of events after events after events. So I think maybe we'll just start with you, Jon, kind of as the guy in the middle. So you're not kind of independent freelance and you have like a management team, but also you're not in the middle of church, kind of at one specific church. How are you guys what are some of the struggles that you guys have at Christmas time? And I think the cool thing about Church Media Squad is I know you guys have a great working culture. And I also know there's some good boundaries set already, but there's still going to be challenges, surely, right?
Oh, there's plenty of challenges. We have just normal day to day, like whether we found out that two of our teammates, they actually have COVID as well. They're getting through it and they're okay, which is awesome. But they have COVID, so they're not able to work. One's a project manager, one's a designer. And so that kind of shifts weight to different people on the team. So, one of our core values is everything together. So they are sick. So we're going to kind of, okay, well, this is a little bit busier than usual. Plus someone's out sick. And it's Christmas time. So we're all in like Christmas mode. So we're kind of just like, it is what it is. We're not going to change anything. We're not going to say, well, too bad, Aaron's church. Sorry, get over it. Deal with it. We're gonna make it work. That's, our heart is the little C. So Aaron's church, would, whether it's a huge church or not, that's part of the, the local church and everything. So that's our heart to be able to help them and serve them. And so we're still having to balance that. We all have lives. That is, things are going to come up. So, and then you have also churches that are like, oh, shoot, we forgot about this and we need to, figure that out. Oddly enough, that happens with every church. So if it's happening with your church, don't think oh, it's only going to be my church that's doing this and only my pastor does that. Don't worry. There's a lot of people that are doing that and everything. So it's it's a lot of being a little bit open-handed. Is how I kind of, try to just see it in my head. Okay, well, here's my talents and everything I'm going to do is everything I can within my, constraints. Everyone has a limit, and once you hit that limit, and we have limits at Church Media Squad, which is awesome. And we figured out that okay, if we go past too many projects in one day, that those extra projects are not going to be as good. So we're actually going to push them to the next day to help actually get a good product to the clients instead of hey, I'm really tired and I just threw this together for you. So hopefully you like it, and that's, no one's going to win in those circumstances. So, you have that. You just have this whole, you have to plan for the printing. You have to plan for all these different things, plus life, plus, honestly, I feel like I'm in a whirlwind this past week. But that's what we're here for. That's what we're I get to do this. I get to feel like I'm drowning and I'm serving the local church. So.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I hope you don't feel like you're drowning all the time, but I love that.
It's only the season. I understand that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about balance a little bit more, but like, it's this season. That's what it is. What it is.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
So I think the cool thing at CMS and at most agencies is, and I guess working within the church as well, is you have a team of people that can kind of balance. Like you say, it's like everyone working together.
Yep.
But for Michael, for you, you're kind of from experience as well. We're kind of like out on our own here, and we are the person that answers the emails. We are the person that manages the workload. So how do you find, and how are you finding your first Christmas kind of doing that all on your own? Like what are the kind of struggles that you're finding right now?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, definitely working from home, it's so rewarding, but it also can be distracting at times, if we're being honest. Also, things come up, right? And since I'm like, when people hire me, they get me. It's not like I'm this agency or this person that's contracting out. Like, what you see on my Instagram is what you're gonna get. And I always love to serve people, so I always work with people as much as I can. But yeah, it's challenging, man. Even like this week, like Tuesday, I got COVID, and I wasn't planning on that. But it definitely set me back, and so I've had to, work around that. I can't have anybody else, designing things, or I'm going to take 3 days, some sick days. It's, being a freelancer, there's pros and cons. And I think just being able to work around those things as much as you can, because you're the only person that's doing it. Ruben, I'm sure for you, it's the same thing, but those are the things that we have to pay for when we go freelance, so yeah, it's definitely been a new experience for me. But it's super cool. Like I said earlier, like, I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So
yeah. And like, I think what I'm seeing right now is this is probably one of the busiest months for us as creatives. And there is two people that we've just spoken to, both Michael and Jon, who are still passionate and excited about it. And if you can be passionate and excited about church and serving the church at the end of November, mid-November, then you're clearly doing something right. There's something you're passionate about, because this is the most challenging time. This and like March or early April, when Easter starts to kick in. Those are both some of the toughest times. So yeah, I think it's really cool, and I'm looking forward to how we both like kind of, now you both shared about kind of how you're feeling, and we can both see really positive, working out how do you balance that. So we're going to come back to that in a second, but I want to get to Aaron, and I've left Aaron till last on this, and I promise this won't become a theme, Aaron. I just wanted to kind of know how you guys, what are your struggles? You've been working at part of this church for years now, so kind of, is it the same things you're seeing over and over again, or is it new things this year? What are kind of some of the struggles that you're finding right now?
I mean, the big struggle that we always run into is that mix of like capacity management along with all of the new things that the church wants to do, which are all great every year. So, we have Christmas, but then like this year, it's like, oh, by the way, we have this amazing, hugely awesome opportunity to partner with our town's parks department. And we're throwing the whole community, like the whole town's Christmas festival is on our campus, and we're partnering with them, and it's great. But there's a whole season of that in preparation for that. That's through the month of December. And then, oh, by the way, we're launching a rebrand, for the church in January. So we've been, cranking through that stuff. Plus, like, Michael mentioned all the life stuff, like I'm having a baby in a couple weeks, and, like I had a filmmaker who got COVID. And so just all of the extra things that get added on into what you were already planning to do. Usually with our team, we try to keep a certain, or at least I try to keep a certain amount of capacity open for when something gets thrown your way. Like, I had a conversation with one of my filmmakers earlier this week, where he's a go-getter. He has a million creative ideas, and I love it. He just started suggesting projects to other teams without checking with me first if we could handle that. And I just be like, hey man, I love it. You got to talk to me first, not because I want to say no, but because I can't manage your capacity if I don't know what it is you're agreeing to without my knowledge. And I got to keep a certain amount of margin for like you when you get sick, because he's the one who got sick and we had to cancel a couple projects. But we've also built a really good culture around trade-offs. So if the senior pastor comes or a department comes and they're like, or my boss even, he's like, hey, we really want to do this. This is really important. I'm like, great, that's awesome. My plate is full. What do you want to reprioritize? Is this the biggest priority, or could we do this and could we scale this project back, or could we cancel this project or move it down the list and I'll get it to you 2 weeks later than I was planning? So we have a lot of those kind of like cost and trade-off conversations, and I've been really blessed that like my leadership is super open to it, which is kind of what makes it manageable.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think I think what you're saying about leaving capacity is often something that we don't do at Christmas, because Christmas is like we leave capacity for the entire year, knowing that at the end at Christmas we're going to max that capacity. And I think it's always funny as well. Like we think that Christmas is I think the summer is the quietest part because it's the biggest gap before the next big event. But Christmas is actually you come out of Christmas and normally you get like a week to recover. Then the pastor or the church leader, like you say, is wanting to do something new in January, when they kickstart the year really well, whether that's a rebrand, whether that's a new series. Like they want to get the church energized for the new year. So normally, like you've got to work on that, which means like your capacity is then maxed all the way through Christmas until January. Then if you get to the end of January, you're now thinking about Easter. And Easter's not that far away. So there's actually like a lot of stuff that happens after Christmas that kind of often gets forgotten about.
We know we're going to be running straight through until May. Like we have our calendar year next year pretty much planned out, and looking at it, it's just going to be a solid wall of one thing after another. So that capacity management, like, I mean, I don't do a lot of creative stuff myself. We really just run flight control is really what I do, because I've got one designer on my team. We use probably about 5, plus I've got 3 filmmakers that are on staff. Sorry, 5 freelancers, freelance designers, like Michael's one of them. And so much of my job is just that capacity management so we don't get overloaded. So that's, I mean, I spend most of my time doing email and can we handle this, doing the hours math and all that kind of stuff. Kind of what you're saying, because we know we're going to be slammed through the end of spring, and you know, a burnout creative is no use to anybody. It's not used to their family, it's not used for ministry, it's not used for their job, they're of no use to themselves. So we just have to manage that so that they don't burn out.
Sure. And maybe like that's where we can start to talk about burnout, because this is a really good segue. I appreciate that, Aaron. Michael, have you ever had to deal with burnout before? In maybe not even around Christmas, but like if there has been a time at Christmas where you've had burnout, like have you ever had to deal with that before?
Not since I've been in freelance, but I did deal with it in my last role at the church. I definitely was burnt out. And it's not a fun position to be in, because like Aaron was saying, it definitely does. It doesn't only affect you, but it affects everybody else, right? It affects your job, it affects your family, and it definitely isn't fun. I mean, I was bringing that home, and it wasn't a good thing for my marriage, for my son. You know, it just, so I never want to be in that position again. So now I'm definitely very cautious about that, because as a creative, you don't want to be there. You know, it's just, your world just gets turned upside down, and you don't even know how to be creative anymore. And that was my experience. And so that was one of the things that God showed. And one of the big reasons why I went full-time freelance, because I had already been praying about it. It took about 1.5 years for me to like actually make the jump. But it wasn't until I definitely experienced that burnout where I asked to the Lord, and I got on my knees and I was like, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, please show me. And definitely I haven't experienced so much peace. And yes, there's been challenges as a freelancer, you know, like definitely right now it's one of them, you know, that I'm trying to manage through. But I have a very supporting wife. You know, she believes in what I do and the calling that God has given me. And it's definitely been such an amazing experience. So yeah, but I definitely don't want burnout for anybody. It's not fun.
Yeah. Have you got anything practical in terms of managing burnout? Like, so you haven't experienced burnout as a freelance. What's some of the things you put in place so that you haven't had to do that? Because you've been in the business now for at least 6 months, which is easily enough time to have burnout. So what have you put in place that's helped you specifically?
I mean, you know, the first one is definitely prayer and fasting. You know, definitely taking a step back, and when those moments of burnout come in, is definitely just stepping back and saying, Lord, like what is it that I'm not prioritizing? Because I think it's a prioritizing things that are not meant to go first above the Lord or your family, you know? So definitely the Lord has challenged me because I can work and work and work all day. Like for me, I can sit here and I can be creative all day, but it's definitely just taking a look at those moments and asking God, like, Lord, what do I need to like move around so that I don't experience this burnout? And definitely, yeah, like just for me, it's taking a break, also going on a vacation, going out with my family, getting re-inspired, because yeah, it definitely can. It's easy. Like I said, it's very easy for you to just work and work and work. And then all of it, like you're just in this place where like, how did I get here? How did I get to this spot where I'm not feeling inspired anymore, and I don't want to do this, or I don't even know what to do. Right. So
Yeah.
Definitely prayer is a huge one. If people are not praying and like reading their word and spending time with the Lord, everything else is just not going to be in alignment. So
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest things that I found a couple of years ago was that I kind of forgotten about what we were doing it for. And I think when you lose sight of the meaning and the purpose, especially around Christmas,
yes.
like it can be so much driven by the tasks and the stuff you need to get done and the projects and the deadlines. When you actually forget about the huge opportunity that Christmas is, but also the insane meaning of Christmas, as in the birth of Jesus and what that means for humanity. When you lose sight of that, suddenly like you get focused in the little tasks, in the problems, in the things that need fixing, in the workloads, and you actually lose sight of the big picture. So I think like, yeah, taking a step back and prayerfully considering and like actually connecting with God in this season is huge. Aaron, for you, like, so Michael just has experienced burnout before and just gave some kind of useful tips. What do you do to manage your team and also for yourself as well, so that your team or you don't experience burnout, particularly at this time?
I mean, the number one thing you can do is plan ahead. We've pushed and beat that drum. So I mean, we've been planning Christmas services since July, and we've been working on design stuff since probably August. I think I had the concept done by August, so that if something goes wrong, if you have a delay, if there's a lot of different things that come your that throw curveballs at you, you have time and margin. We pad most of our timelines by at least 2 or 3 days. Don't tell Michael that for when I need things from him. But I mean, I think another thing is I'm pretty militant's not the right word, but I'm pretty aggressive with like, hey, it's like 5 o'clock. You need to go home and see your family anytime that's possible. My project manager at the last church that I worked at, I mean, she would say to like 6 or 6:30. And I was like, Grace, like you got to go home, like go be with your family. There's nothing that you're going to do in the next hour that you couldn't do in the morning, and spending that time with your family is important. I do the same thing. Like I do my best to work 9 to 5. There's always exceptions. And like the week before Christmas sure, it's a time where we're probably all going to work overtime, but you shouldn't be working crazy Christmas overtime, like for a month in November. So I'm pretty hardcore on like, guys, you need to go home. We'll figure it out. The same thing. A burnout creative is no good to anybody. So much of it is just being rigorous with your boundaries for work. Kill it while you're here. Don't goof around. Work hard in that 9 to 5, but then just go home, rest, refresh, have that personal connection. That's planning, capacity management. Those trade-off conversations that I mentioned are really huge when dealing with leadership. That's probably the most crucial thing, where we've earned a lot of chips by like consistently delivering projects on time throughout the year after year, so that if I say I can't get something done by a certain time, they believe me. They don't think we're just being lazy or we weren't managing our time well. So having those conversations really helps. So yeah, it's all of that stuff together. And that's, like I said, I do a lot less creating these days and a lot more of kind of like that sort of management, so that my creatives are at their best and not killing themselves.
Yeah,
there's going to be a time to push, but it doesn't need to be constant.
Yeah, it's that whole marathon mentality where you guys are doing this on a longer endurance, and there will be a time to sprint, but you're saving that for the when you really need it. So yeah, that's a great point.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah,
about what Aaron was saying. Like, I just want to encourage like Aaron and even John, you two leading teams at Church Media and Connection Point. Like, I think creative directors are super important. And sometimes they get overlooked, in my opinion, like just based on the church that I've been and other stuff. But like what Aaron was talking about, like he definitely does that. Working for him, he's like, it's always a joy to work for him. I love it because he's so like prepared, organized.
Cool.
He plans ahead and he gives direction, which is like I think a lot of creative directors lack sometimes, the direction part. And I think creative directors are super important in the church, and I think sometimes they get overlooked, right? But I just want to like acknowledge Aaron and John. I'm sure you do this too. Like both of you, thank you for all that you do, because it makes our jobs easier, right? And we actually enjoy it. Like I love every time I get a project from Aaron, I actually enjoy it because like, man, like this is so detailed. It's really well thought out, and yeah, man, just want to encourage you and thank you for all that you do. Like both of you, thank you. So
it's funny. Michael did our Christmas branding last year, and we worked with a hand lettering artist for our Christmas branding this year. But Michael like took all the lettering that she did, and he's doing all the deliverables. So Michael's been our Christmas hero for the last 2 years. He's been killing it.
Cool. I'm excited to see that.
Of some of their stuff, and it's incredible. So. But in fact, Aaron, maybe just share how we can see that. Have you guys released promo material for that yet?
Yeah, I honestly don't know if they've released anything on like digital yet. I mean, we've got some print invites that are going in the lobby this week. I can probably just like share a link or something like that if you guys want to see it. But if you just go to it's at @connect_CP, eventually you're gonna see it. The lettering artist is it's actually my first time working internationally. It's a woman named Sarah Rebtine. She's in Austria, which was super cool. So I think she's going to post something about it in the next couple of weeks too. But if you go to @ConnectCP, I'm sure you'll see it. Probably, I would guess next week it'll start showing up digitally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love it. So now like Aaron, you've obviously got this on lock. You have like you put some buffer in so that you can get projects done, you filter it through on a timeline to kind of like preserve that. But there are obviously like pastors and leaders out there that aren't so organized as you are for sure, and your church is. So John, maybe I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here. How do you and your team like keep spirits up, maintain like enthusiasm, motivation, especially around this time when there might be some like last minute things come through, some changes, some like unexpected twists and turns? How do you manage your team and like help keep them motivated?
I guess you'd have to ask my team if we are doing that and everything. But I think that a way to do that is, I mean, just like a bank investment. You know, if I don't have money in the bank, I can't pull it out. I can't do, you know, I can't ask for something extra that came up. You know, and it needs to, you know, things need to, they come up and they happen. We understand that. Josh, absolutely. Coffee does not hurt anybody unless there's one. Josh, if you guys know Josh Sorensen, which I'm sure you all do, he doesn't drink coffee. So I'm going to like start a petition or something like that to like, I guess we're gonna have to kick Aaron out as well. He's
tea,
not
man.
I don't drink
all the way.
Drink
coffee is gross stuff.
Yeah, tea all the way.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay. Well,
so John,
anyways,
you're actually the minority right now. Sorry, man.
Well. Okay. Well, I'll stand strong. But I mean, I think that the way to help people is, I mean, I'm gonna plan as much as I can for my team. I'm gonna do things as much as I can to prep my team to be able to like get things out of the way. So, I mean, if we're driving down the highway, I'm going to like try to get ahead of them, you know, at least 20 feet or down the road and move things out of the way so that they can kind of just do what they're really good at. I think it's a big thing is finding out what you're good at and getting into that lane and being able to say like, hey, this is what I'm really good at. I'm really good at illustration. I'm really good at hand lettering, which I am not that guy. You know, kind of a thing. And like those different things is what you should keep doing. And if I'm doing my job right, I'm going to get you more of those things. And hopefully getting you more of those things isn't burning you out and killing you in those areas. But it's, you know, fueling it. And there's obviously going to be, you know, if in my car analogy, I guess, is, you know, if I put too much gas into my car, it's going to leak out. It's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be beneficial. So I got to like figure out, you know, here's how much. I got to figure out. I mean, there's all ways of like, if you're into the Enneagram, finding out people's Enneagrams. if you're into, the disc profiles, finding out those and finding out what these people that you're working with, what those, are good for, how they communicate, how they can, like, what energizes them, what can I do to make sure that that, like, we value you and what you do. Because I could say, Ruben, if you're a words of affirmation person, kind of a thing. But if I keep sending you gifts, you're like, I don't really care about the gifts. Just tell me that I'm awesome. And if I miss that, like, then it's all for naught. It's like I might as well just throw it out the window, and it's not helpful. So if I can say, like, oh, okay, well, Ruben's a gift person, so I'm gonna send him coffee because he needs coffee.
Or tea.
Or, well, we'll talk about that later. I like Ted Lasso because he doesn't like tea, and so I thought.
What does he call it? Brown water or something?
Yeah, something like that. I thought it was, just hilarious. I'll drink it when I'm sick, but like, it's those things. Yeah, dirt water. It's one of those things to be able to make sure that, like, if I'm leading well, I'm gonna know my team of, like, oh, this would be a good project for them. This would not be a good project for them. I have a person that's, like, phenomenal at layout, so I'm like, hey, can you do layout stuff? And I'll give you more layout stuff. Then I have another person that's good at like illustration stuff, so we'll give her more illustration stuff. So it's figuring out your team and knowing your team. And if you don't know your team, I'm not really sure if you're doing it right, if I have the gumption to say that. So
freelancers is knowing which artists are right for which project. Like, I know what projects I'm going to go to Michael. James Graves is on the chat. I know which projects I'm going to go to him. I've got, like, a couple other designers that I use, like Joe Cavazos or Sal Helms or some of these others that I know, like, okay, if this is the style I want, this is who I need to go to. So really knowing who you have at your disposal and what they're going to be best for is super helpful.
Aaron's put together the Avengers of church designers, like Joe Cavazos, Michael, James Graves, like, literally, like, some of the champs there. So you put a great team together. And I think, like, the awareness piece is really important, because if there's a last minute thing that comes in, the thing that you can't control is when that thing comes in. Like, you can put things in place to prevent that. But if a pastor, like your church leader, comes in and says, hey, I need this done for tomorrow or for Friday or whatever, you can't prevent that. But what you can change in that scenario is your awareness to the situation and how you pull your team together and utilize your team to make the most of that situation. Mm-hmm. So if you're watching this right now and you are in that kind of church leader, you're someone who delegates, and you've kind of got this weight on top of you of all the things that are happening at Christmas. Although you may not be able to control the things that are coming in, what you can do is you can sift them into the right place and be aware of your team. So maybe one of the things that you need to do, like John said, was, like, take a quick stock check of, like, your team, what their skills are, what they're good at, their Enneagram numbers, whatever that may be, and just maybe trying to reset how your team looks and how your team works, so you can make the most of the work that you have and do that the most efficiently. That could be something that hopefully you take away from that. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good point, John. And hopefully there's some creative leaders in here that are going to take something away. So Christmas time is, and actually before I jump onto this question, I should say, if anyone does have a question for any of us on stage right now, we're going to take a time for Q&A in about 5 minutes. So leave your questions in the chat. If the team can if the presenters here can just hold off from responding to those until the Q&A section, and we'll get around to answering a few of those. But maybe let's kind of, like, our last talking point right now. What should our focus be on at Christmas? Like, what we're kind of focusing on right now, although we've got a lot of work. Maybe Aaron, just start with you. Like, what should our focus be on specifically at Christmas time as a creative? Yeah. Let's go as a creative.
I think as a creative, it should be like, how can I don't know, man. And part of it's like, how do you savor the season and not kill yourself? Like being a creative is wonderful, and you want to use your talents for ministry and for Christ and for the church. Like that's awesome. But if doing that runs you so hard that like, you know, maybe you don't get burnout in ministry, but you get burnout on Christmas and you're just like, Christmas is my least favorite season, I hate it, then I think you've lost something really special. So I think it's a much bigger deal to guard your heart and your attitude around a season like this than it is to pump out your most creative work. I mean, if you have the time and you know, like you freaking love Christmas and you soak in the Christmas music starting in July and you've already got your Christmas shoes and your Christmas sweater, like, I mean, and you can do that and just crank it out. Like that's awesome. And that's a huge blessing to whatever team you're on or whoever you're working for. But if you're finding yourself burnt out, it is way more important to protect your personal relationship with Christ, your love of the season, your time with your family relationships, your time with your team, than to pump out the coolest work. Like I would rather have a healthy team that does, I don't know, 60 to 70% of the quality than somebody who's doing 110%, but they're just dead and they hate Christmas every year and they dread it.
I mean, I actually have like an experience in that this year. So one of the churches that I work with that I love, like we have a great relationship, great creative director as well there. They asked me to work on the Christmas branding like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So I started working on that. And this was that whole awareness thing that you were talking about, John. They quickly realized that what I was creating didn't line up necessarily with what they were thinking. And instead of them just trying to keep pushing me to create something that I couldn't get their vision, they actually went with a different creative. And at first, like it was kind of hurtful in the sense of like, hey, I'm the designer that was put on this project and it got taken out of my hands. But what I realized was that I needed to take a step back and focus on actually like, what am I trying to achieve as a creative? Was it trying to dominate the church space with Christmas designs, or was it trying to push myself creatively to the max to, you know, produce the best Christmas design, or was it like facilitating and helping the church to achieve like their outreach goals for Christmas? So it helped me to just kind of reset my thing, like having that experience of like, oh, that was kind of painful, why was that? And that kind of helped me just to switch my attitude a bit into making sure that it was for serving the church, not for serving myself.
Yeah.
I will encourage you that if you talk about me having like the Avengers of church design, every single one of my designers has had that happen at least once, where we've been working on a series and it's just not working. And it's like, dude, like, I love you. This is not me saying I'm never going to use you again. I'm just going to find somebody else to work on it because we're beating our head against the wall. Let me pay you for your time and I'll go somewhere else. Like every single one of them, Joe, Michael, Sarah, James, like it happens and it's not something to take personally.
That's awesome.
Scenario. What I will ask is like, what are you focusing on right now at Christmas as a creative, as a freelancer?
Man, a lot of different stuff. Besides the normal day to day, I've been getting a lot of like just concepts, and I've noticed that a lot of people, I would say probably 60% of my clients that are giving me like Christmas stuff right now, they just have me do the concept and then they just have their in-house team do all the deliverables. With the exception of like Aaron, like I'm doing a bunch of stuff for the Christmas season. Sunday Social, I do a lot of their season kits. So I think I've done like 2 of their Christmas kits and I'm working on another one right now. And that's a big kit, right? There's like social graphics, lower thirds, slides. So it's like a big deal. But that's what I'm focusing on right now, and a lot of print stuff too. When I went full-time freelance, I was seeing a lot of social media, like we need more social posts and we need more digital invites. But I've been doing a lot of print. Like I just got doing like a big 12 by 5 foot banner that they want to hang up on the stage, which is cool because I think with COVID, like a lot of it was just digital, right? But now I'm seeing that a lot of the print stuff is coming back. So yeah, like that's what I've been doing of the most is mainly concepting, and like I have 2 or 3 clients that I do a lot of their deliverables, which I enjoy. I love doing like doing deliverables for a lot of designers. That a lot of people that I'm friends with that are designers are like, oh, I don't like doing deliverables, but I love it. I enjoy it. I love taking a piece of graphic and then just like replicating in different ways. It's definitely very fun for me. Help answer the question. But is that
yeah, like I'm glad like we're getting so like kind of Aaron came from the kind of like leadership, spiritual perspective. You're coming from like the practical perspective, which is really helpful to get an idea of just how people are like focusing this Christmas. And then, Jon, for you, just kind of as we move into Q&A, like what's kind of your focus as CMS as a whole, and like as you guys are moving into Christmas and then beyond, like what are you guys focusing as a kind of leadership team within that?
We are focusing on keeping a consistent culture with things that are growing, with things that life is still happening. And so we're trying to figure out, yes, life is still happening. Yes, we're in a crazy busy season, but we're still trying to find that balance of like, can we push? How hard can we push to not push over the limit? Kind of a thing. Because I mean, like Aaron said, I don't want my team, working until 8 o'clock. I have a guy that's I think he's in Vegas, outside of Vegas. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm working. I'm like, it is 9 o'clock at my time, so it's 7 o'clock your time. You should not be working. I just had to make sure, like, listen, you're making awesome stuff, but if you're gonna burn yourself out, I'm gonna kick you off the team by myself. Kind of a thing. Not because you're not doing great work, but like you're breaking our rules of we want you healthy. You healthy is way more important. And being healthy is, it's a mental game too. You have to, the last 2 days, and I'll probably do it tomorrow, and I'll probably do it next week as well. Like I'm outside, I'm taking a walk, I'm leaving my phone like here in the office with Mike Wazowski over here. He's watching over for me. But like I'm going out and I'm taking a walk, just getting out, no phone. So the only person that can connect with me is, my neighbors, which I'm cool with that. But like we need mental health. We need we still have 2022, coming up, which is a little bonkers to me to think that we're in 2022 right now. And like just because we have Christmas coming up doesn't mean that we're gonna, burn out. I don't want to leave anything in me when I'm, going home to Jesus, but at the same time, like, I don't think that tomorrow or the end of this year is when Jesus is coming. And if he is, whatever, so it's making sure that we're still at a healthy place, because our team being healthy is way more important than, again, like Aaron said, like really when it comes down to it, it's just Christmas. Like in a way, it's only Christmas. It's just Christmas. It's just a couple graphics that we're doing. And if we lose the focus of it's about Jesus and showing like God came to this earth for us, like that's just bonkers to me. Like I've been really looking into the Gospels of like, what does that really mean? And like, man, God came down to this earth and he's the only God, Lord, that did this. Everyone else is like, well, I'm God and, all this, whatever. But like, that's the focus, Jesus is the focus and stuff like that. So it's not about, yes, Christmas is important. Yes, people are going to come to church probably for the first time, but they're going to realize like, hey, we're just normal people. We're not like Ken and Barbie, I guess, kind of a thing. We're not plastic. We're real people. We have blemishes, and we're going to probably mess something up at our church. So kind of deal with it and let's move on. So.
Jesus, love it.
I don't hear you. Oh,
can you hear me now?
Oh, sorry, that is me. Yep.
There you go. Keeping the focus on Jesus. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to a time of Q&A. We've got like 10 minutes before the end. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Megan's done 3 questions in one. So we're going to start with the first one and bring that up on the screen. You'll see it there. And I'm just going to throw this out, and whoever feels like they want to answer, go for it. It's, what is it essential advice you have for a church creative who is about to tackle their first Christmas?
I'll tell you, keep it manageable and take it slow. I know that seems like counterintuitive, like you want to go hard at Christmas, but if it's your very first one, you don't want to have a traumatic experience. And if you can keep it manageable, then you can do your best work and then build on that. And then every year you're going to get a little bit faster and a little bit better. So start out, like realistic with the process and what you're trying to accomplish. Don't try to create, like a Hollywood movie when you've only ever picked up a handy cam before.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you gotta be realistic with, I mean, if you're starting right now, you're a little bit behind the game or whatever, but at the same time, I mean, you only can do so much. You can only, you can really just only do so much in your life and what you have the time for. And if you're doing this more than just Christmas, you're going to have other series to work on as well. So
add on to, like, make sure you find something that you love this season. So like whether it's a project that you are doing for yourself or for a church that you're just like stoked about, or like me, I got pulled into like Christmas decorating around campus, and I love Christmas decorations and Christmas lights, and it's always so cool to see. So even though that was extra work, like that wasn't really work. So find something about the season that you can do that isn't just work, that you are just stoked to do and be a part of, because it'll keep you running.
Yeah, I think from a designer perspective, maybe someone who just started working at a church or hasn't really done Christmas branding before, coming in with a fresh mind, right? And seeing what's out there. Like, I remember when I first started, because before I was doing church work, I was at a corporate company, quote unquote. I was doing a lot of mobile apps and web design. And when I started working at church, I had no idea like how to do this, and I was the only guy that got hired. So I had to like come in and figure it all out. But I remember I got hired during Christmas, and thankfully the Christmas branding was already done, but I was like coming in doing like little deliverables here and there. But I would say for someone who maybe hasn't done it before, keep a fresh mind and just doing your research. Like I remember Pro Church Media was the first Instagram channel that I came across, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, this is so cool. And just seeing like all the different designs and designers that were on there, and just being inspired, it was such a cool moment. And yeah, like what Aaron was saying, keep it manageable and all that. I think we learned that. But at first, like I would say, just open your mind, because you tend to see like the traditional branding, especially during Easter and Christmas, of like the cross and the dove and the nativity scene, which I think is great. But like expand your mind a bit. Like, how can we make this super awesome, and how can we still tell the story of Jesus, but like make it look cool, so yeah, definitely like go on Pro Church Media, go like on Sunday Social, go on all these channels, and just like soak yourself into all the inspiration that's there. I mean, that's what it's there for, right? Yeah, and like being community too. Like, I'm so thankful for like the community we have here, and like on Instagram, like I just think everybody's super cool and like sharing their work, and kind of like how Aaron did earlier with the Christmas piece. Like that, when I first saw that, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is so cool. Because I wish I could do lettering, but John, like you said, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy either. I need to practice on that because I want to do lettering so bad, but I struggle with it. But yeah, come in with a fresh perspective and just get inspired by as many things as you can, and do a lot of mood boards and hang them up.
Yeah, great advice. And I would just add on to the end as well, as like knowing, I did my first Christmas, I guess you call it a gig, with my church maybe like 6 years ago, and your first Christmas, whatever, will never be your best. Like, it's just a reality. Like, you can put the pressure on yourself for this to be the best thing you've ever created, but the chance of you're just starting out, it's not going to be your best. It takes years of experience to keep, you're always learning and always evolving as a creative. So what you produce on the first year is not going to be the best thing you ever produce. So maybe just take that pressure off as well. Understand like what you're creating, do it with an excellent attitude, like do it as if you're doing it unto the Lord, but at the same time, like don't expect this to be your masterpiece. This isn't your Sistine Chapel. So yeah, that's what I would say. We've got 5 more minutes. I'm going to do a couple more questions. Next one is, what should you definitely not do the week before Christmas?
options. I mean, don't get sick. I don't think that's probably a good thing. Like, don't get sick. don't die, I guess would be, that's mine. Don't die. Please don't die.
I think from a practical standpoint, don't take on a new project. Like, you want to have time to decompress after Christmas. So, I mean, you may agree to one, but if you want to just, give yourself that week after Christmas to recuperate. So don't be like, yeah, dude, I can totally do that next week. Like, probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last minute requests. I think those, and working in the church, I mean, there's churches that do things really well, like about the last minute requests, and people like, for example, like Aaron, that understand, right? Like, he's always on the lookout, like, hey, if you can't do this, let me know. Like, I totally understand. But yeah, I wouldn't take on too many last minute, especially in December. Like, for me, like, I have a few retainer clients, and I try to just stick to those, and not take on last minute deals or a new project, because it's definitely, it can add on. Family is the most important thing, I feel like, in that week, and just getting ready for those 2 days or that day of celebration. So
sacrifice your family for your design. It's really important, like, in that week before Christmas, is don't go to bed at 4 a.m. every night trying to get stuff done. Drink water, like get into a rhythm, so when you hit Christmas Day, you're not just like crashed out, unavailable, needing to recharge. Like, that's a day to be there with your family and to celebrate the birth of Jesus. Like, that's the most important thing, like, about Christmas, is understanding that. So don't sacrifice that for the theatrics of Christmas, for the show or the production or whatever it is. Put some boundaries in place and make sure you're firm with those, and so you can go into the Christmas season resting well, but also just celebrating and spending time with family well. So we want to encourage you and kind of give you the authority to do that, to kind of just say, look, I can't do this. I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. I'm going to bed at 11 p.m. and I'm going to get up and I'm going to go as hard as I can until 5 p.m. and then I've got to take off because my family comes first. So that's really good. And then finally, with a couple more minutes to go, what is the coolest gift that you can get for a church creative? Now, I reckon Church Media Squad's got to have some cool ones. I see that sweatshirt there.
There we go. That's my answer.
and John's actually said he's going to give one out to each person in the audience.
Wow. All right. Love it. Oh, man. Wow. Coolest thing. Oh, man. I mean, if budget's not, an issue, like a cool monitor would be awesome. I think, what I have actually really enjoyed is with Joe Cavaso's, his little like timer box. I think that's an awesome idea. Yep. I think those are super cool because, I mean, it helps you make sure to take breaks and stuff like that. And between projects, those are, like, to me, those are super helpful. I'll go for a walk. I'll, go downstairs and get some water. I'll go and do something else that's not, creating, with timers and everything. So I think those are super helpful.
A Wacom tablet. I love tablets. So those are always good to have, especially when you're retouching and all that. I love that. And I love pins. I've always loved pins. I have a collection of pins. Every time I get a pin, yes, there you go, John. Every time I get a pin, I love it.
Cool.
So yeah,
I would say if your church creative works in an office with other people, nothing says "I love you, Merry Christmas" like a Nerf gun. A solid Nerf gun is a wonderful thing to have. If they've got headphones in and you just can't get their attention, just shoot them in the back of the head, shoot their screen, go raid the other side of the staff offices. There's all sorts of fun stuff to do if you like work in a larger team right there. Nerf guns are where it's at.
We're now finding out the kind of leader Aaron is, the kind of leader that would shoot his own team.
I may have been known to cause mischief and go raid the student ministries or the small group teams from time to time. And we don't do like the little Nerf guns. I've got like the ones that shoots like the foam balls, like 100 feet per second. Like, they're serious business.
I think that's probably why Michael likes working with Aaron, because they're not in the same office, so he can't really be shot at. And no,
that's funny.
in the peace and quiet.
Have you got a Nerf gun for protection though?
I need to get one. I don't have one yet, but I'm sure my baby will want one as he gets older. So yeah, I'm gonna have to get one.
There you go. Cool. Well, I think like we're actually doing really well for time. I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. And I just wanted to thank Michael, Jon, and Aaron for joining us today. Like, I think this is really important for creatives to take away with them. We're going to be publishing this as well on our YouTube channel, but also throughout social media across Christmas. And I think this is going to be really helpful for creatives to just get an understanding for like some boundaries they can put in place, but also some of the ways that they could be healthy this Christmas. And that's what we want at Pro Church Media, is to creatives are thriving in their churches and not trying to just get by. So thank you guys for joining us. Just leave it in the chat. Like if you guys are there right now, just say thanks or give a little emoji or whatever. We appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, Michael, for being here with COVID. And yeah, you guys are the best. So we're going to be posting this very soon on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned for that. We'll have updates on our social media. If we want to find you guys, just we'll quickly go around. If we want to find you guys, how can we connect with you? Maybe Michael, you go first.
Yeah, you can go on my Instagram at Michael Khamo Design, or you can go to my website, www.michaelkhamodesign.com.
And then Jon?
Yes, at Joe Cabezos. Oh, just kidding. Instagram is JC Design 4. It's my favorite number. So there you go. JC Design 4. Would love to connect.
There you go. And Aaron?
I'm at Video Aaron basically everywhere. My website's like aaronwilliams.tv, but being in more of the leadership, less the do process, you're going to see a lot of pictures of my family. So you're welcome to, you can totally message me there, and I will talk church creative stuff all day, but I don't tend to post a lot. So it will sadly not be a huge place for inspiration if that's what you're looking for. If you want inspiration, we should chat, not Instagram stalk me.
But you will find Aaron on most weeks in our Discord channel. He's part of our happy hour. He jumps in and has a conversation. He's always bringing some good stuff like he did yesterday. Cool. So if you want to find Aaron, he's sometimes in there as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I've been designed by Ruben, part of Pro Church Media here, and we look forward to seeing you again for another one of our live streams. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you guys soon.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruben.